Right, it is 7:01. Open the meeting. Everybody got a chance to see the minutes?
Yep. I move
Comments?
I was gonna say, well, I move we approve them as submitted.
Second.
No comments? Aye.
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 Approved. Treasurer, okay, Catherine, but we have no Catherine. She on the phone. Oh, she is. We can skip it.
I have no vouchers.
There's nothing, okay. Then we report to you.
No, it's
Yeah, that's-
fine.
Okay.
A lot of people say vacation for the fourth, so.
Okay. 7:05 start our first.
We have the A and R plan to consider. Right?
Oh, sorry. We have any
Yeah,
notes?
we don't have,
For the one spot.
I didn't get physical plans that I know of. It's like not in your writing.
They didn't file it.
I don't think so. We first heard about it before the last meeting. I
Well,
don't
we
think,
continue with you distributed plans.
yeah, digital.
Did you, we didn't get paper plans.
Chair, young.
They haven't done before.
Clock has to start at 9.
All right.
It's pretty
That
sure.
they would be conditionally approved, it would be,
Yeah.
approved if we didn't.
No, no.
I was expecting.
So we don't have a Form A to A and R plan that was, okay, thanks.
Join us, Kathy. Anything else before we get into the first item? Nobody? Catherine, we skipped over you. But you got nothing? For treasurer report? Go ahead, treasurer.
Nope, I have nothing.
Start by review. So does everyone see the back of the packet? We've got our meetings laid out through December. The last page.
So as long as there's no.
As long as it's.
You don't want to say about. Where Christmas or anything.
Everybody happy with those hours, those dates?
Yeah,
Yeah, because that would be the only meeting in December.
it's fine with them.
22nd times meeting.
Oh, I see, there is there's a, oh, I see, I was looking at November, December 14th, yeah.
Anybody gone for Christmas? All right, 7:05. Public hearing of 169 South Street. On Rosewood Lane. Do we have? Excellent. John, you want to keep going on this one? Hear me?
I'm sorry, was that to me?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. For the record, Sean Malone of Consulting Group, the civil engineer for the project. Also on tonight is Rick Morrell, the owner and applicant of the project. So since we last met, we received peer review comments. We've also met with the fire department. We've revised our plans and provided response to those peer review comments. And we've also provided some additional information, some of which was requested by DEP. To get kind of right into it, the plan changes were largely revolved around the fire department comments. And what we've done is provided a turnaround that the fire department was looking at, as well as an additional access gate into the solar farm. They also asked about providing a more stable surface that can be more easily maintained and accessible. So we've included on the plans, removing the top 6 inches of soil that's down there now and replacing that with a hard packed road base to provide that stable surface. Some of the other comments from the peer review was regarding the stormwater and the stormwater analysis that was submitted. We have revised that analysis to include hydrologic calculations, as well as increasing or adding additional information to the operation and maintenance plan. More specifically, we added a whole section, it's probably 7 or 8 pages, regarding specific operation and maintenance of the solar farm itself, regular inspections, reporting, vegetation management, stormwater management, fire suppression, all of those things. Be happy to walk through that a little bit more if you want, but that has been submitted. Additionally, we added contours to the plan that was requested by DGT to understand the grading a little better than just the spot grades and where stormwater is flowing and being retained on site. As we talked about before, largely all the stormwater is contained within the site. There's a couple large depressions that gather all the stormwater. And when I put up a plan here for everybody, there's a couple large depressions, this area up to the north, and then a second down here in the south. And these really retain most, if not all, the stormwater from the solar farm area, and it just percolates back to the ground. So we have documented all of that in the revised drainage study.
Sean,
Yes.
excuse me, do you have your Army Corps permit already?
No, we don't need an Army Corps permit. Rick has
You're
been in
below
contact with
269,
them.
aren't-
I'm sorry?
You're below 269 though, aren't you?
Yes, and we've done the compensatory storage calculations. And to kind of paraphrase, so the Army Corps area, let me get the right plan here. The Army Corps area of the easement is all of the area in white. So this beige area or gray area is outside of the easement. So what's been relayed to us from the Army Corps is that they don't care what happens in here, basically. So our permitting with the floodplain is bordering land subject to flooding, which is just DEP. So we have filed the notice of intent. We are in front of the Conservation Commission. And just additionally with that, we do have this priority habitat area that a portion of the site is within. So that review is ongoing as well. That is underway. So
Thank you.
all of our,
Sorry to interrupt.
But, anything under 269 according to the Upland rules has to be floodproof, is that correct? Any-
yes, and that is our operating. So just to talk about the floodplain a little bit, we'll jump right into that. This area is mapped a zone A, meaning it has no elevation assigned to it. We're using the 269 because that is what the Army Corps has a right to flood to. That being said, the existing dam control spillway is only about elevation 264. So if they were to use that entire 269 elevation, they would have to reconstruct the dam and build it up. That being said, we are using that 269 as kind of our baseline, our benchmark. So all of the battery storage, transformer, all the electrical equipment is raised at least 1 foot above that 269 elevation. So it will be flood proofed.
Thank you.
So going back to some of our conversation with the fire department, they had the concern about access. We also discussed some of their comments about the fire suppression and the individual specifications. And what we discussed is that all happens kind of at the building permit level. So once the land use approvals are in place, planning board, conservation, et cetera, then we proceed to the construction and specification of all the equipment. And then all of that final information will be provided to the building department for a building permit and have the fire department review. Couple other things we discussed with the fire department is the pond, the fire pond and the new withdrawal outlet, I guess you would call it, in the fire pond. And what we discussed is that will be a town project. However, the applicant has agreed to fully fund that. And then the other component we talked about is because, as we've just talked about, much of this is within the floodplain, is what happens if we're in a flood stage and, access is cut off to the solar farm. So what happens in that scenario is if the fire department becomes concerned about access and the solar farm, a storm coming, whatever, there's a quick discharge component to this system. And so the batteries and all the energy can be completely drained from the system within about 2 to 4 hours. So then at that point, it's just lying dead and doesn't need to be tended to until, flood waters recede, then it can get back into operation. One of the other questions, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, is this existing culvert crossing that was put in, 30, 40 years ago. We have looked at that on site. This crossing has been subject to heavy loaded traffic, over the decades with the dump trucks from all the excavation on site and the removal. And there was no signs of any breach or any questionable aspects of this crossing. It's fully intact and no issues. But to make sure, it's kind of an added protection, we are proposing this mat slab to span the entire crossing. So we just essentially take all the load off of the culvert and preserve its integrity. One of the other things that we talked about with this board was noise. So we have done some additional research and analysis, and I just submitted this to Michael and Lauren this afternoon. So you haven't gotten this in your package, but I wanted them to have that as part of the public record since we were presenting it tonight. But basically all of the concentrated transformers, batteries, the major noise generators are at least 500 feet from the property line. And then it's another 30 to 40 feet to the residential properties. We do have data from the suppliers on what the noise levels will be at the loudest equipment. And then we've had this analysis done that basically shows that at that 500 feet, the decibel levels would be, approximately 70 at the transformers, 65s at the inverters, that when you get to the property line, the decibel levels will be expected to be no greater than 39.09. To put that in some perspective, an ambient noise level of a library is 30. A typical residential neighborhood, birds chirping, things like that, is around 40. So this would not cause any significant increase in the ambient noise level in the area. That being said, Rick and I talked about this, and if the board felt it necessary, we would not be opposed to a condition to conduct a baseline noise study prior to construction, as well as once the system is operational. And if for whatever reason that study showed that noise levels are higher than expected, then we can provide mitigation, and that mitigation can be a timber sound wall. There's, I believe, some blankets, sound blankets that can be put over the equipment. So there's things that can be done, and we're certainly willing to do what's necessary if it comes down to it. We're not looking to disrupt anybody's lifestyles here. We recognize this is a rural
Exactly.
area.
What exactly is the type of noise? Is it like a hum or? What will people be hearing?
Yeah, I believe it's kind of a low hum, right, Rick? Yeah.
Through the chair, I have another quick question. You guys, have been watching you folks, and do you agree that it's 500 feet away, or do you think it's, because there was some head shaking.
Yeah, I'm sure I know the measurements of if it's 500 feet.
Yeah.
I think our analysis thought that the noise level would be higher at 1 meter than what he's suggesting,
Okay,
based on our review of the manufacturer's specs.
okay.
And I just don't know how that translates to the property line, whether there's been I understand the manufacturers saying.
Sorry, I was muted a second ago, but keep in mind also these readings are based on a clear shot. There's no obstruction from point A to point B. There's many trees between our buffer zone and the property line. So that is definitely going to help reduce any noise that ends up getting in that area.
On what the noise would be at the property line and what the mitigation effects could be.
Is the noise at night, Rick? Is it 24/7 or is it just certain times of the day or?
Did you get a acoustic summary?
No, all we've had is what was ever uploaded to the town's website.
If you'd like to see it.
It's on the website now.
They said they just got it today, so,
Did you guys get a copy?
yes, but we have it in the package. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Just wanted
sorry.
to,
That question, is that all night? Is that a 24/7 sound?
Yeah, well, I think the inverters, they run primarily during the day. But I think the batteries, when they are discharging, which would be at night, because that's ultimately with the whole reason to have batteries is to send power back to the grid when it's needed. And that's when it kind of happens all day long, I guess, is the answer.
but from what you just said, if there's a recharge at night, is the noise louder at night, or is it constant throughout 24 hours, or does it vary? And
Yeah, I mean, it does. It varies. I am not an expert in this, but the inverters are putting out, a dB level during the day, and some of them are closer to the buffer zone than, say, the batteries, which were 500 feet plus away. So it's like just a combination of sounds that overall, if they're all running at the same time, that is the dB, which we're under 40. So it's not, that's kind of the worst case scenario is what we're presenting.
Okay,
And again, that 40 dB is consistent with a typical residential neighborhood. It's not a significant noise generator.
That during the day, or is that at night, that typical noise level?
Is that a question for me or is it Sean? What's Sean?
Yeah, well,
Sean, I guess Sean.
The question is, you're saying it's equivalent to a typical neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
But what people want to know is that a typical neighborhood in the daytime or a typical neighborhood in the nighttime? Because, you know, we get coyotes and owls at night, but that's about the only noise down there.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, through the chair. The
A quiet
statement,
suburban neighborhood or bird calls is
Nice.
kind of how it's characterized.
this document here says that the 39.1 is well below the volume of a normal household refrigerator or a quiet residential street at night. So they're claiming that that's the equivalent to the nighttime.
Just test that. Good.
Yeah.
One other thing I did not mention as related to the revised materials as part of the stormwater analysis, we also provided documentation on all the Mass DEP policy 17-1 standards and how we meet these. And those are specific to solar fields. So that's something that was also added to the stormwater study. I think that probably, one of the other changes that we made as discussed with the fire department too is we just tweaked some of the fences to make sure there was at least 20 feet of clear space for access around the entire solar field. That was something the fire department wanted to make sure we had. So that's been provided.
And that was inside and outside the fence, right?
Yeah.
One point I guess is if there's 20 feet of clearance outside the fence, some of that trees that you're suggesting will be a sound barrier, probably going to be active.
There's panels up on the slope, like the pitch, not in the slope. So if there's panels on the slope, and then you're gonna do a 20-foot road around the perimeter, there would have to be some sort of retaining wall or some, there's just not enough room. The grade comes down pretty steep. And the detail, there's no detail really on the plan. Those sorts of structure.
What's your,
Rick, some sort of sound blanket that could be added?
sorry, I didn't catch that.
You mentioned some sort of sound blanket that could be added to the equipment.
Yeah, if need be, certainly it's something that Sean and I discussed, adding some kind of a sound barrier on that platform up at the 270 elevation. So yeah, it's something certainly, like we said, we can measure and if we come to determine that it would make sense to do that, I'm certainly willing to do that.
So, can you speak to the slopes below the panels? What are your side slopes on those hills that you'll be putting the panels on? I know that there are several hills out there.
Well, the hills in the kind of field itself is basically getting leveled off. There'll be some grading, and that's kind of twofold. One, to make a easier construction and not obscure panels from another, but also that's part of our compensatory storage for adding volume below that 269 elevation. We're removing soil, actually more than what is taken up.
We're talking about that there's panels, and I don't know if I'm reading the plan right, but there's contour lines showing the hill behind our houses, and there's panels on that hill.
Let me see if I can pull something up here. So I think you're talking this hill to the north. So
Yeah.
this area is excavated out and then kind of smoothed over. We chase the grades up a little bit on this end, but most of it is just fitting into the rest of the hill. So there's no significant excavation into that hill.
What date was that plan updated?
This was the most recent submission, 6/16.
Up at the top right corner. Show panels in the contour lines where the slope is up to the properties.
Correct.
Sure.
There's no panels here, and the panels are at least 100 feet from the property line here, which is required by the town.
Where your cursor is, there's contour lines showing the hill. And then
Yes.
that look like there's panels up on that hill. And
In
then
here.
how to fit a 20-foot road on the outside of those panels. You can have those panels, then a fence, then a 20-foot road. That puts you deep into that hill, which if you're gonna build a road, there would have to be some sort of retaining wall or something there.
Yeah, it may make sense
to-
to just
Yeah.
relocate a little segment of that if we can. I mean, I think we have places we can put, a group of panels, so it may make sense to do that in this case with the fire department wanting 20 and 20. So,
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you were saying.
oh, I'm sorry. I said that the area that we're talking right now, the top right corner,
Mhm.
I think it might be Sean that's mentioning it, that group of panels that is there that's cutting into the hill, we can likely relocate that group so it makes it easier for us to construct the road inside and outside this fence around that area.
So
That makes
you'll provide new plans with redistribution of the panels and the road show?
Before, yeah, I wanted Sean to get his opinion on that before we do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we need to change the panels or anything. If, when we talked to the fire department, they were primarily interested in the, 360 on the inside. And then we had the access along the long routes on the outside. If we did want to put something back here, we can grade something in here. It'd probably be, stepped up a little bit from the panels, but it wouldn't be a significant excavation. I certainly don't think we would need retaining walls.
So Sean, you'll provide us then with new documents showing how you'll deal with that corner in order to put the road in?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And just another question, if you're looking at, again, the top, I don't have a copy of the plan in front of me, but if you're looking at the top, there's that extra line that have sort of two spurs like antennas on both sides. And I think we were talking about the spur on the right-hand side that sort of goes down. Is that the one you're talking about that's going? And I think Sean said that it's possible to relocate that because that gets closer to your, so there's one thing about what the firefighters, the fire department, what we need to do to satisfy the fire department, but there's also the neighbors and, if there's concern about that, can that be relocated?
Oh, this module here, put this elsewhere?
Okay, on the top right-hand corner, there's a spur.
That's not a module, Kathy.
That's not?
No.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. So you're talking about,
Panels are inside the,
that's what I was wondering. It just looked
yeah,
weird.
but the contours sort of come in there, so it makes
Okay.
it a little tight for.
Okay.
Question through the chair. How much space is between the panel and the chain link fence around it? I think it's the 20
What
feet.
is that on top? Is that the,
Fire department's asking.
That's what it is.
They
You know what
said,
the distance is from the panels to the perimeter fence?
It's a minimum of 20 feet all the way around. Some areas are greater.
And there's a bill right there with the fence is going through, and then if you want a road on the outside of that
Right.
fence, that puts it even.
So,
deeper.
so they're gonna give us new plans to show us how they're gonna.
Wanted an access road, they said, they satisfied the fire department's concerns about the access road on the inside and the outside, but it's not on these revised plans, so I was just, I would think that in order to satisfy the fire department's concerns, those details.
Yeah, they will be.
So, through the chair, I guess I'm a little confused at this point. Is there a access road on the interior of the array and another one on the exterior of the, so on both sides of the fence?
On these plans, that, yeah, see.
Is-
Got that?
That's what I'm understanding is people are looking for. Yeah, these plans have just the 20 feet on the inside and then the long edges, not on the sloped area. But if
So the
we,
revised plans will show us access roads on both sides?
You know, I'm thinking one of the things, Sean and I could discuss this in more details, but it may make sense if we put a gate on both sides of this upper section, fire department can come in. They don't necessarily need to have access on both sides up here. So that's something that we'll discuss, and it may make sense to do versus, affecting the slope and affecting more trees.
But
So
if you do that, we will need a new letter from the fire department saying they approve of whatever alterations made to their requests.
yes, no problem. We'll talk about that and relay the information back to you.
And if there is an access road, and I think this is what the folks in the front, I think, were referring, is if there is an access road on both sides, does that involve going further into the slope going towards the property lines?
yes, there would likely be some grading in between here. Maybe we incorporate that with the access easement, the trail or easement for the public access trail. So I think there's some way, we're gonna keep it as tight to the fence as we can.
And with that removal of additional slope, would that impact the acoustic report that you guys did? And
No,
with that, if you're cutting more into the slope, would that increase the sound migration up the slope into the neighbors' houses?
no,
Well, the only impact, Rick, would be the trees would be coming down.
right, because right now, none of the sound calcs are done with any obstruction in their way. So if we added in all the trees, your levels are gonna be a lot less. So we just strictly did it by no obstruction, and this is what you got.
Kind of
But
worst case scenario.
Yep.
Come down, then that natural barrier is gone. Like if a noise study is done, it would have to be done in this condition that the site will be in.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So if the trees, if in fact you get to build that access road behind this fence where those panels are already in the slope. Now, more trees will come down, that's gonna encroach closer to the property. So if you do a noise study now, it's not gonna simulate what the conditions would be once the site is excavated or whatever's done there.
Right, and
Right.
I think that's why we're suggesting kind of a baseline study, prior to the shovels go in the ground, just what things are now. And then once the construction is complete, a follow-up study to make sure that things aren't more than what we anticipated. And again, if for whatever reason they are, then it can be mitigated with a couple different ways.
I mean, yeah, I mean, just to follow up on that, and I understand what you're saying, because it's hard to do an accurate noise study if you don't have the actual conditions, but then it's kind of late. And yeah, there's most likely mitigation, but I mean, is there an absolute certainty that the noise can be mitigated? Or is this sort of, we're going to do a new noise study and we'll do our best to mitigate it further.
But there's a standard, right? And we have to meet that. So we can't.
But the standard
exceed-
is much higher than 40 decibels, right?
I think the standard is 42 or 43.
Okay,
So we can't, we would have to mitigate if we were higher than that, right? So we,
but I guess my question is, can you get it down? I think you said currently under existing site conditions, it's what, 39.1? And can you get it back down to that?
Well, actually, I think what they're saying is the 39 does not take into account any attenuation. It is basically the sound level
Coming from the.
without anything interrupting the
Yeah, it's a calculation.
the calculation.
Site.
Okay,
It's not site-based.
okay,
It's physics-based, if you will.
okay.
correct.
No, that's exactly right. And that's why we did it in the most conservative way. What the maximum expected to be. There's no consideration of trees or topography or anything like that that's gonna attenuate the sound. So that's why we feel pretty confident that, you know, we're gonna meet what we say we're gonna do.
So Sean, on a different topic then, back to the culvert, you said that you looked at the culvert. Do you know if DGT looked at the culvert?
I
Do we
do
have-
not know if they have or not.
Right, I think that's one of the things we'll have to put into our request will be an independent review of that culvert to make sure that it's structurally sound enough for trucks and whatever.
What about the noise ordinance, on the books now, but I thought it can't be higher than 10 decibels over the ambient noise for an extended period of time. So I don't know if you know what ambient noise is. Certainly at night, I think that ambient noise would be much lower. But only going 10 over that, I think we need to understand kind of what the baseline is before we can evaluate whether 39 is.
So our peer reviewer has not looked at this noise study as well. So that is something that will go out. We just received it, so it will go out for peer review as well. So we'll ask for the review, for the revised plans showing the roads, peer review of the culvert and of the noise study to see what our reviewer says.
Was that everything you got, Sean?
I believe that is everything we have. We did get a copy of the letter that was submitted by some abutters. And we have gone through that. Be happy to go through any of the questions or things the board feels need to be addressed as part of that letter.
We have talked about some of this. I do have a question, just a sort of simple question. From that letter points out that the plans at one point refer to 8,590 panels, 8,380 panels, and 8,400. Can you
Yes.
confirm which of those numbers is correct?
Yeah, it's the 8380, right, Rick?
Correct.
Yeah, and the discrepancy is the 8590 on my plan was from a previous iteration. I failed to update the note when we removed some of the panels. And then the other reference was 8400. That was just on the typical racking plan that the manufacturer used. They just rounded the number up. So they just use that just to give the board an idea of what the racking system is.
And just so everybody is aware, like we have 8,000 something panels, and that's based on the panels being a certain efficiency, right? The next thing you know, of 6 months from now, the panels are no longer 720 watt, they're 800 watt. That means our panel quantity will be reduced. The overall, because we have a submission into National Grid for 6.033 megawatt DC solar farm, right? That number can't really change, but the amount of panels can change based on the efficiency of the panels. They become more efficient, we reduce the size of the solar farm. So that's kind of how it works. And panel quantities has been changing over the, like, when I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. So yeah, sorry for that inconsistency.
Yeah, the other question, so for information for the abutters from this letter, you refer to the MISA and HASP. That is part of the Concom, and any decision we make is always contingent upon approval by other boards and commissions. So we would never approve something if the Concom says, no, the MISA requirements aren't met.
Correct.
Well, any town board that has a say in your project is a conditioned upon, planning board was conditioned upon those boards.
Board? We kind of brought this public in to the
Early.
Anything else that, any other comments?
Conservation Commission look into the effects of any contamination of the soil if there was ever a fire.
That I'm not sure, but except that one of the roles of the Conservation Commission is to protect groundwater. So the answer to that would then have to be, yes, they would have to think about potential contamination of groundwater.
Obviously, the Tap Mill Brook's pretty close. Groundwater itself is pretty close, and the town wells are just on the other side of the West River. I'm sure it's the same aquifer.
I'm just downhill from there.
That's a concern if our wells get contaminated, there's no town water anywhere near us, you know.
So I think conservation.
Yep, conservation can look at it, fire department's gonna look at it, they're gonna revise their plans. And,
It'll go back out for peer
you
review.
got anything else, Sean? We're gonna continue.
No, I
John,
think
can I
that's
ask a
it
quick
for
question?
us.
Do you know when the Concom is going to take a look at this?
Well, we have started the review with them. I'm not sure when the next meeting is scheduled.
So we are back on with them next Wednesday.
Okay.
All right, we'll continue this until August 11th. 7/20. 7/20, August 11th.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Mary Overhaul is the conservation agent. Mary Overhaul is the conservation, and she's wonderful. So, you know, you may want to make sure they get a copy and have your concerns about the contamination issue.
All right, then that meeting till late August 11th, and we will continue our regular meeting.
All right, thank you, folks.
Thanks a
Thank you.
lot.
Thank you.
See ya.
680 Grove Street. Open that public hearing. Be open. Couple of people here.
Mark Allen, Allen Engineering Associates, Dave Claro here, property owner, who's on via Zoom. Last we met, DGT was right to give a third review letter, which we received. Okay, second. And they had a couple of final suggestions for site. Go through those. Yeah, maybe the letter back to the planning board. With those handful of items that DPT felt that the planning board needed to be addressed. The first is the site distance requirements. We did a field site distance analysis of the property. Made current access to Marshall and Sons. It was on the easterly side. We had a site distance to the north of 400 feet to the intersection of 140, and a site distance of 350 feet to the south of the street.
Only 200 feet, isn't it?
Correct, yeah. So we exceeded 200 feet in both directions. One of the second item that they asked for is the dumpster location. They had a lot of questions about the truck turning radius or dumpster pickup with the mixed use building. Don broke over Marblehead and the existing dumpster location has no problem, so they're gonna put a double dumpster in that location that frees up a parking space. So instead of 13 spaces, we can remove the dumpster and get a 14th parking space to the south there. And their third concern or question was the existing, and they kind of just asked a question, the existing accessibility of the Rushford and Son Brewery. They have an existing ADA compliant space here. You did the calculations, it's 3.12%, which is well below the 5% that needs any sort of rails or whatnot. So it's below the ramp elevation. But they did ask that question. And then 3 other items that might not see on the plan, but we moved this tray of parking about 3 feet to the south. They asked about the 4 parking spaces that are currently used. So the parking lot for the mixed use building got shifted about 3 feet, and that matches where the striping is now today. Because next to the existing home, they have some parallel parking along the way that's striped there. So we matched that stripe. So the access to those spots will be no different in the future. And it just took a 3-foot dip to the south. One of the other items is impervious area over the entire site. I looked at this, and if we remove the asphalt associated, extraneous asphalt around Rushford and Sons to the side and to the south, and in the beer garden area, and make that pervious surface areas, we're below the impervious threshold. So that keeps us in the redevelopment status per Mass Handbook standards. And again, we have a follow-up next Wednesday as well. To go over that. They asked if we could put siltation sock along the construction fence, just to mitigate any sort of construction debris during construction. So we added that. So those were the outstanding items from the last letter. Any questions for the board may have?
Yeah, I actually have one, and then I think there are other outstanding questions too, but they also raised an issue about the other handicap space, which is in the, apparently it seems that you need 2, and it's in the municipal parking lot, which is the distance from the building.
No, there's a space with both uses.
Okay, so both uses aren't adjacent to the brewery. Okay, so that did get, okay.
Yeah. No, like the parking against the, my retreat, they had the, down.
Anyone else got questions? Anybody online with questions?
Actually, just I'm sort of going over this. I looked at it online today, but there was also the open question about, there seemed to be a disagreement between you and DGT about the sufficiency of the maneuvering space. And has that been changed, or is that, okay, okay,
Maneuvering in the trash truck.
okay, that's what I thought, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to double check.
Here, dumpster now. Perfect.
At least one pad with 2 dumpsters, one for the
We're
brewery.
all surrounded.
Yes, yeah, the screen. So, my suggestion is just back to who's doing the CGT.
So they can take a look.
See if they agree with the changes. And we should be, able to get the plan.
Right.
Dave?
I'm sorry.
Mark,
They
can
want
you
to
hear
send
me,
it
Mark?
back to DGT. I don't think they have a contract to do a fourth review, is that correct?
So which says subsequent use budgeted 3,000, so we have to get another.
So I guess which of the questions do you think DGT would still need to review?
Number 3,
The handicap accessibility?
that number 4 has been done correctly, unless you have something like that, should be looked at. The impervious surfaces definitely should be, make sure that that's been, that is correct. And the erosion control, make sure that that's acceptable. Should take a while. Then we're covered.
Mhm.
Alright.
Yes. We'll have to just take a look, make sure everyone's up to par. So next.
So what's the process? What's the process financially for Dave to do that? Or you mentioned something about contract amendment?
I assume it'll be another. How much last one was like 3,000-ish. So we will need to get approval from the applicant. And get additional funds before any peer review is done. If he doesn't agree to it, it doesn't pay for it, then
Right, yeah.
Shouldn't be that much, it shouldn't
Yeah.
take that long.
it's.
Just a question, an email that DGT wrote, to Mike. You know, he talked about dumpster layout, that's been remedied. Site distance study,
Yeah.
done. Handicapped accessibility has been dealt with.
Yeah, they basically said, Michael took it upon himself to say, thanks for the third review.
Yeah.
What would you think is a final recap would be? And July 2nd, he had those 3
Said
bullet
that.
points.
Yeah, but to be fair, there was major change. You eliminated brewery right in the middle of the application, you had to do a whole.
That was before the third.
But still, it was in the middle and he can be forgiven. He's here to make money too, so.
I'm gonna leave it up to Dave to see what he'd like to do as far as.
I mean, just,
I'm having a really
just
hard
one
time
more
hearing.
comment. Just one more comment. You know, my thing is looking at the fact that, yeah, there have been changes made, but none of them, you know, seem substantial.
Yeah, so,
And to be asking for another $3,000 and another month-long delay seems to,
Hey, Bills.
Yeah. seems to be,
Yeah. I'd also say, just in terms of the things that you just pointed out, Tommy, the impervious surfaces in the beer garden that's really about Concom. That's really about
Yeah.
this being a redevelopment within the riverfront area, which is why they're doing it. They're not doing that for us. They're doing that for Concom.
and we can do
Has
that as a
Concom-
condition,
has
correct?
Concom, exactly, that's what I was gonna say.
It's also
And-
part of our bylaws.
I know, but given that they're doing this for Concom, when we say you need your Concom approval, Concom is gonna be the one reviewing this.
Still. As our responsibility.
It's also in Concom.
And it's in there.
And that's why we usually defer to them and say, you know,
It's part of our engineering review. I would say we charge them to do the review, but we don't need it, we don't look at it. That's,
But then we're also dealing with additional month delay. And again, I don't see any,
where does Concom stand on this? Where are you at?
They meet next Wednesday. We're on the agenda. We're hopefully gonna,
Do they have they sent the new plans with the impervious surface?
Yes.
Out for peer review?
they rely on the DGT review.
And has DGT for them reviewed whether or not it fits within redevelopment?
yes.
Yes.
So
that's-
DGT has already reviewed whether the impervious.
Yes, part of their overall scope was to look at it from the conservation and the planning end. So you'll see in their letter from the day one, it had stormwater, it had road, it had
since they're, but since number 5's happened, they have.
Yeah, that was, yeah, because the removal of the impervious surface just happened. And so I guess the question is, has DGT looked at it to see if that is sufficient? And are they looking at it for the Conservation Commission?
Yeah.
Because I think if they are looking at it for the Conservation Commission,
Right.
and if we make a condition, then I would tend to argue that we don't need to, but if they haven't looked at it and are not looking at it, then, I would not object to.
If we hold the vote until next meeting.
I have-
After it goes past.
I have a question, how, I'd like to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
The impervious surface that's shown on there, which has been added,
Yes,
what kind of surface is it?
it's gonna be crushed gravel underneath the beer garden and loam and seed and grass for behind the restaurant itself.
Because the only thing DGT is going to tell us is that impervious,
Right.
or pervious, and the square feet,
Hard to, yeah.
and whether or not it satisfies the condition of making it redevelopment.
Right.
So I'm not sure,
Yeah.
If it was any good.
right,
Well, why are we charging applicants to review something that we don't care about?
You're trusting your local engineers to provide that accuracy for you.
Well, and we have reviewed it. We have had peer review and we did care about it,
3 times.
which is, I'm not sure that not.
Yeah.
And certainly with the erosion control barrier, that's gonna be reviewed by Concom.
They just asked that we add it along with construction fence.
Concom asked for that or
DGT.
DGT? So that's,
Chair, conservation will inspect that for.
Yeah.
Works like.
How many total spaces are there for the brewery? And how many total parking spaces we got?
14 for the new building and the existing brewery is becoming big, I believe, with Paris. Yes, 8 or 9, Johnson. 6, 7, 8, 9.
And those are what's required?
Yeah.
And handicap accessibility, you have
Yes.
handicap access?
Yeah, so they totally agreed with our new handicap access. They just simply asked in that last email, July 2nd, what was the grade from the brewery today? It's 3.12%.
There a hard surface between, you said that's all gonna be gravel,
Yeah, it's gonna be that compact gravel.
and a hardness surface, say the.
Oh, yeah.
On the very bottom, it says, Joey, a lot of your comments seem directed towards utilities. Would it be appropriate to suggest the board defer to the DPW on those matters? What does he mean by that?
So a lot of the sewer, water, drainage, that sort of stuff. Can that just be answered during construction? And we tried to get DPW to weigh in, but we didn't hear about it.
When's the bridge getting done? Wilford Bridge?
at this point, the bids have been received. I think the engineers are reviewing the bids, and they just went through a qualification process. So my understanding is that it should be awarded within a week or two. And that you're looking at hopefully a start date sometime in September.
Start date for
This will
construction.
conflict with that closing, right? What are you gonna, how are they gonna access the site?
They'll access
Yeah,
it from,
from the south.
yeah, their only access will be from the south.
What about the parking in the,
Municipal? That's
Yeah,
gotta
no,
be
at this point, there'll be no access from the,
so the brewery's not gonna be affected by the bridge closure at all?
No,
no, the
there-
great, they
There won't
won't,
be enough parking for them.
people won't be able to park. Because there'll be no place on the north side, because there'll be no place to get across the brook.
When are they putting in the footbridge? Is that first?
Well, so that, I think, my understanding again is that remains to be determined because they'll create a construction sequencing. But I don't think there's any intent to make it required at any specific time during the construction process. We're really looking for the most cost-effective way to get the bridge. The bridge is done.
Yeah.
But no footbridge or no pedestrian bridge to go across. And they-
There will be, oh, but.
Eventually, that will be a footbridge.
And how long do they expect construction to take?
My understanding is it's about a year.
So to go back to the
Means
question. where
those of
they-
us
where
in
folks
South
gonna
Upton
park?
who are already unable to get anywhere because of the bridge in Northbridge, it just.
Yeah, they'll just stuck.
Damn, the bridge is.
I want more.
No, they haven't awarded the contract yet, but if the construction starts when planned.
Right.
You'll probably see some closure in September
Oh, on and
timeframe.
off.
No, once they
When the
start
bridge is
taking the
gone, the
bridge
bridge is
down,
gone.
that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, the bus routes are really gonna, because they already
But
had to
that's
change
unavoidable.
Yeah.
However you look at it, it's unavoidable
Yeah.
for there to be some disruption in pedestrian and vehicular traffic at that location.
It just happens to be the center of town.
Yes. But and as you well know, that bridge is in dire need
Oh, yeah.
of being replaced.
Yeah, when Dennis showed those pictures, it was like, oh my God, I haven't gone over it since. I really haven't.
Do you know how bad that bridge is?
Well, I did a plankton tow off of it because for a class in the spring, and I was standing at the side holding the plankton net into the brook, and I looked down and I thought, I better not see this.
Don't go too deep. So what's the general consensus?
I think we should
Find out where the money.
move ahead and not, and on the condition that having a hard time tonight forming a motion. But to grant the special permit, with a condition that it's contingent upon the approval by the Conservation
It's
Commission.
just getting it approved by Concom and everybody, and then just doing the vote next meeting.
Because that brings the next meeting till, be one thing if we're meeting every 2 weeks, we're meeting a month.
But instead of conditions, legals.
I'm comfortable approving it with the condition that the Conservation Commission, I mean, that goes without saying, I think, but
Yeah.
I will say it.
And that's how we usually.
Yeah.
We usually have the approval conditions.
But don't we usually, this is a public hearing, correct? Don't we usually close the public hearing and then we debate motions and things like that?
All right, well, I think we're ready to close the public hearing now. Everything's good, everyone's done with your questions?
Yep.
All right.
And then we can either
Continue
decide to
the
do,
meeting, and do I hear a motion?
I move that we grant a special permit, contingent upon,
Yes. Yes, you did.
oh. You expect me to remember that? Contingent upon, approval by the Conservation Commission. I mean, yeah, we're dealing with a small business here. Not that we should cut corners, but I just don't see a need to wait for the Conservation Commission to make a decision. If,
Is this still part of the motion?
actually, yeah, I'm gonna make a really long motion. That's right. So the motion needs a second and then.
Second?
I second that.
Can I add, yes, I would add perhaps, do we want, given that there was a site distance study after that hasn't gone up here, do we want police to look at it and say that they agree? Is to agree,
As a condition?
it's not I think we all know that site distance is pretty
Yeah,
great.
very good.
That's not one that I was particularly concerned
No,
about.
that's fine.
So there'll be an amendment to the
Yeah.
Friendly. and then-
friendly amendment.
Do we need another second on the amendment?
I'll second,
Okay.
just in case. we
And,
do.
About the existing ADA, is that gonna be checked out? We're just gonna take the word for it that that's okay?
That's
Is there
the,
anybody in town-
that's the case there now, right?
It's the case now.
Well, is there anybody in town that can confirm that that has been done? If it's not gonna be sent out? Who in this town?
But it's not relevant to this project.
He says the existing, it's just This came from the engineer.
No, I understand it came from the engineer, but he went a little bit outside of, I think he admitted that.
You say there's no question that this meets ADA approval. And how did you get that if you did?
No, my point was that the ADA compliance of that part of the property is not part of this project. That's been taken out of the project.
We approved that ADA space when we approved the project originally in 2020.
He just asked the questions.
Exactly.
That is a space that this board already approved.
So you're looking for a confirmation of something that we've already approved.
Yeah, the engineer had questions and we're saying it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Will be the
That's
engine,
what you
yeah.
want to vote, go right ahead.
You know, again, I think I agree with Bill. The engineer was commenting on, you know, we already gave it approval. If we hadn't already given it approval,
And I think if you
Then
look at
that
what
would
the
have been valid,
engineer
but-
said about it is, but if I was a member of the board, these are things that I would like confirmation on by the applicant prior to making a determination.
So
And the
he's gonna
applicant is-
Get a response and verify that that response met his question. That's what he does 4 times now.
But he said as a member of the board, yeah.
He never does that either. He's been doing that for years. He's never responded. I would take his word for it. And as a member of the board, I would say, all right, goes in and he's the engineer. He should be able to respond to it, not me. We rely on our engineer, not him. I mean,
I'm still saying though that we approved that handicap spot in 2020. You and I were on the board
Yeah.
when that came up and we both signed the plan.
Maybe
Saying-
maybe DGT didn't do the review, I don't know.
No, I think they did.
Did they?
okay, it's just.
So it's been
Here,
approved.
about 3.
so we're asking for redundancy here. And I don't think that's necessary.
No, for this, we're taking Concom's word for it.
They were,
They are gonna vote on Wednesday.
so we're gonna approve it subject to them.
That's what we always do.
We always do.
If that was what the motion was, that was what Kathy moved it. It's a big conversation.
So if they reject it, then our approval goes away.
Yes, well, I mean, that can, we approve it subject to them, but there are still questions on the engineering aspect for the planning board's part of drainage and runoff into the services. If we're part of that, we don't have the answer, but if we're gonna leave it up to to give us the answer,
It is the same
yes.
stormwater handles that they are looking at that we are.
I'm from way back that the planning board always did drainage and runoff on, didn't. We did it. We still insist on our books that we do it.
Concom's done it for a very long time.
We always do it, Tom, and I defer to the Concom's evaluation of this, if it's acceptable. You know, I'm not a stormwater expert. And if it's acceptable to them, you know, upon, you know, their consultant's approval, then, you know, with the new information, then I'm comfortable accepting that.
And if they say no, what do we do? Go back.
And
Then,
if they say no, then
it doesn't meet a
then
condition and
our
our
approval is not passed.
is null and void.
This is a good design in an area that needs it. I
Mhm.
don't want to, I thought waiting a month to make sure it's okay. If we come back from Concom, and everything gets thrown into, it's just not worth it. It's not worth rushing.
I don't
If
see the,
if you're comfortable with these engineering aspects and some other will take care of it.
I don't see the point. I mean, this is what we do for other projects. We don't say we want to do our own complementary study to what the conservation's already doing. We say it's contingent upon approval by the, I think we just did it with these guys. You know, that, you know, they have to go to the Conservation Commission and the Conservation Commission has to vote on it. You know, in the handicap space issue, it says the applicant. It doesn't say our engineer. It says the applicant. And this is something that, again, this board approved in 2000, it was before I was on it, but
2020.
in 2000, in 2020, yeah. So we've already approved those. And so I don't understand why we need time and money getting reapproval of something we already approved. in a parcel that, to the best of my knowledge, is no longer part of the project because, I don't understand why we would do that.
All right, go on, let's,
Motion's been seconded.
let's take the vote. The motion is there.
Aye.
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 Opposed.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. DPW.
It's about some money.
What is you?
There it is. All right, 100 Pleasant Street, DPW, public hearing. Can we open it or just pushing it?
I think this is a.
Oh, they are here. Open the public hearing for 100 Pleasant Street. Go ahead.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Let me share my screen. My name is Jesse O'Donnell. I am a civil engineer with Weston and Sampson representing the applicant tonight, which is the DPW. I am having an issue sharing my screen, it appears. Let me just try this again. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
I can try if needed.
Yeah, do you have the ability to share my screen for me, Lauren, or?
You see if the permissions are.
It might just be a permission, yeah.
Yeah, I was just scanning.
It says I'm in presenter mode, but when I go to select my screen to be shared, nothing happens.
Like, I don't see anything on our end preventing it.
Jesse, maybe if I try to share.
Yeah, maybe JP could try to share. I'm accompanied tonight by JP at Weston and Sampson and our colleague Russell as well. I could get started with our presentation. The first few minutes are, I think, more verbal in nature, and then I'll like to be facilitated by a screen at some point. So I'll just get us started off here. So thank you to the board for the time tonight. This presentation is pertaining to the DPW renovation and proposed addition at their headquarters at 100 Pleasant Street. Before I get into the hearing proper tonight, I'd just like to make an important note on the project schedule. In order to avoid a delay to the project schedule, the DPW would need the board to vote on the project tonight if the board deems it to be appropriate. This is because the project schedule plans to have bid drawings available to bidders in early August, and the next planning board meeting isn't until August 11th.
Excuse me, why are you saying the planning board has to vote on it tonight?
I'm more just trying to give the planning board the information about the project schedule that has been determined by the owner's project manager, Weston and Sampson as the engineer, and the DPW jointly to get this thing constructed on the timeline that the DPW has forecasted and would need it for. And part of that schedule is that we would have bid drawings available for bidders on the street in, I think, the end of the first week of August. So in order
This
for
is the first time we're reviewing this, correct?
We haven't even voted on your waivers, sir.
There was a question about the first time you're reviewing this. We presented this project in front of the board on June 9th, and there were three main pieces of feedback, which I will review and respond to tonight. And there is an ongoing peer review effort with DGT, and we've had a productive meeting and a response letter from them, which I will also summarize in the latter portion of my presentation tonight. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Awesome. And yeah, there will be a couple waiver, maybe one, maybe two waiver requests. I'll pull those up on the screen and, later on in the presentation that we will be requesting as part of this.
Is,
So as mentioned, it's
Jesse, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Is the screen sharing working? I'm sharing from my screen here. Is it showing up?
We're
the
seeing
board?
Upton Department of Public Works renovation and addition.
Okay, great. So Jesse, just let me know when you want to click ahead and I'll go.
awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, JP. So I'll get started here. Yeah, so if you want to advance to the next slide, JP. The next slide that I have is just to recap the board, since it has been a little over a month since we presented in front of the board in early June. I'd just like to give a quick 1 or 2 minute recap of the project. So again, this is at the DPW site, which on this aerial image is at the bottom of the screen. It's just south of the high school, and Pleasant Street abuts the site to the west. You can see the DPW building, which is the vehicle storage garage in red, and it's the existing salt shed is located to the rear portion of the site. So with that said, let's proceed to the next slide and zoom in on the plan. On this next slide, the plan is at the same orientation of the aerial that we just saw, and it's zooming into the core part of the site. In a beige color are the 2 existing buildings that are to remain, which is the DPW vehicle storage garage in the front portion of the site, and the salt shed, which is in the rear portion of the site. In blue are the new proposed structures. So there's an 11,000 plus or minus square foot addition directly to the rear of the existing garage. And this will contain administration space, vehicle maintenance space, a vehicle wash bay, assorted utility rooms, and overhead doors. The blue structure in the rear portion of the site is a new outdoor storage canopy for the DPW's operations. So with that quick overview covered, I'd like to advance to the next slide and just recap the 3 main pieces of feedback that the board discussed with us on June 9th. And I've put these in bold on this slide. So I'll start off. There was a request from the board for Weston and Sampson to ask the building inspector about the exterior light, the exterior site lights that we've proposed on the building. We did coordinate with the inspector, who suggested that we use dark sky compliant fixtures. He mentioned the stretch energy code requirement that these lights automatically turn off during the day. And he did not have a specific recommendation for any specific fixture or brand of light. So we are incorporating these items into our design documents, and that will be part of the construction. The second item was a requirement, understandably, for Weston and Sampson to complete the peer review process to both DGT's satisfaction and the board's satisfaction. Weston and Sampson had a phone call with DGT that went well last week, and DGT issued their response letter to our comments earlier this week. And DGT has identified all the items as either being resolved or needing final determination from the board. So there's several items needing the board's determination, and I will highlight and discuss those one by one on the following slides. And thirdly, the third piece of feedback from June 9th was a request for additional information about the existing DPW driveway that happens to be partially on the school's property to the north. So Dennis, the DPW director, did look into this, and the easement was likely in place here for access, for the DPW's access, but it appears the documentation has been lost. The DPW has discussed this issue with the school district just in the last couple of weeks, who has offered verbal agreement to reinstate that easement. So the town and the DPW will have to work on legal paperwork just to get that approved by the school district and filed in the county records. And importantly, the DPW wants to note that they are amenable to this agreement being required as a condition of presumptive approval, whether that's tonight or whenever that may eventually come. So I think that I would like to pause there. I think that was more of a focus of the last hearing. So if the board had any additional thoughts based on that update, I'd like to just give them the chance to discuss now.
Anything on these points?
Mr. Chairman, there are about 45 responses that have been given by the.
Yes.
And take a word for that, or we're gonna have that sent back to peer review to see if those were
So that's a lot.
correctly responded.
We just wants to know.
Pretty sure, can I add something? So this had gone out for peer review, I believe, in early July. or a little later than that, and then they were coordinating with DGT in the meeting, provided responses to the first peer review, and I believe received a second peer review response, and that's what we're looking at.
This response is from
Sorry, this was their response. to
WNS, yeah.
Peer review,
So
and
do,
then we got a final letter from DGT.
Did-
for 13.
we did get a, we don't have that in our packet. That would help a lot.
I can pull that they have been.
Yeah, I mean, you can see from the blue in here that they've been discussing this, but if we have a final letter from DGT, that would be once.
If I may just quickly interrupt, I apologize. I have 2 more slides that goes into depth about the open items that we worked on with DGT that they're deferring to the board on. Certainly expands more on those slides in a moment if the board would like me to advance just to facilitate that discussion. But I was just wondering if there's any thoughts specifically about this easement, driveway easement on the school's property, because that was a focus during the last
So
hearing.
you are amenable to us having a condition that the easement is reinstated before any work can be initiated on the project.
Yeah, if that's what the planning board would require, I think the DPW would be amenable to that. I'm not sure if the DPW discussed timeline. I know these legal agreements can sometimes draw out.
I'm just making sure they're okay with that as a condition. So if we say,
Yes, if they're okay with it, it's our decision.
oh, I know, but I'm just being nice. When I'm being nice, I'm trying to be nice, I'm
So I'm
saying.
accustomed to that, I'm sorry.
She's trying not to be Tom.
Trying not to be, so I just wanted to make, yeah, so that's gonna be a condition, obviously, of any approval, but I thought I heard you say that was expected, that would be a condition of the
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask about closing the loop on it, too,
Mhm.
so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was discussed with the board to their satisfaction tonight.
Yep.
So I can proceed if the board is ready. I just wanted to provide a quick update on our ongoing Conservation Commission hearing progress, and then I'll jump into the peer review comments. So a quick side note on the Conservation Commission update, we did have a meeting with the Concom on July 8th. All of the commission's feedback has been incorporated into the design to their satisfaction. The commission did ultimately decide to vote to continue the hearing last week to the hearing next week on the 22nd, just to give DEP some time to offer any final thoughts on the project before the commission intends to vote. So that's the update on that front. Without further ado, I can jump into the next slide, which pertains to the DGT peer review. So as discussed, DGT offered a comprehensive response letter to, or comment letter to our project, and there were about 50 comments. And due to the comprehensive nature of their letter, Weston and Sampson jumped on a phone call with DGT about a week after we submitted our responses to their 50 comments. That phone call happened last week and it was very productive. DGT had the time to look at all 50 of our responses to their comments, and we covered the 10 or 12 comments that they considered to still need more information on. So we did that, and then what Weston and Sampson did is offered a second response letter addressing those 12 items. And after that, DGT offered their final response letter earlier this week, in which they identified as all of the items as generally satisfactory and closed per their requirements, but they deferred 5 or 6 comments to the planning board's decision. So I'd like to just cover those 5 or 6 comments, and I've identified them in bold on the next 2 slides here. The first of them pertains to both comments number 2 and comment number 10 in that letter, and it has to do with stamping plans. Weston and Sampson deferred stamping any plans until we understood that both DGT and the board are satisfied with all the comments. If and when that occurs, then Weston and Sampson would obviously be amenable to stamping final plans as a presumptive condition of approval so that those stamped plans are available on the record.
Here, how long are we gonna be going back and forth with DGT? When do we get involved? We're the ones that vote on it, not DGT. Why are they making changes with DGT in the background and haven't even brought it to us yet? What's with this back and forth? And we've got a final letter. He wants us to vote on it. There's 45, 50 problems here. And we don't have anything in writing to say.
So,
they've
so
done
I
everything.
think Lauren just ran out to
So we're gonna
grab
look at
the
it.
final DGT letter.
So we've got no time to look at it. We're gonna do it
Oh,
tonight.
no, I mean, obviously, we're not going to do it
We
tonight.
have no separate list of waivers. We can't even, we don't, not even, the waivers are all hidden in the text. We don't have a separate list of waivers. We don't have any engineering review of the 45, 50 problems. I'm not voting on it tonight.
Well, no, I mean, Tommy, I don't think the expectation, based on what he's saying now, was to vote on it tonight. I think
I
that
think
this,
that's what they want.
Oh.
That's what they want.
I mean, there's too much outstanding. There's
And
way,
so-
yeah, we haven't seen, Yeah.
I think Lauren just went to get the DGT letter that.
but still, we haven't had a chance.
We
to
haven't
look
had a
at it.
chance to look at it.
I look at it now and then, yeah, it's fine.
That's not normal
No.
for us.
45,
Need a first few go back and forths, right? As far as I'm,
I don't have a problem with that. I do, but we do need time to review, the document. I mean, if, it's great if Lynn gets it, but I mean, I'm sorry.
Right. So,
But if she gets it, but we haven't had a chance to look at it.
I think it's good for us to hear what the issues
Yeah.
that were remaining with DGT were after this, and then we'll see if that's what DGT agrees with.
Certainly, yeah. So I can summarize the items that DGT deferred to the planning board on. And just to recap, DGT did consider all of the items resolved, except for these 5 or 6 that they deferred to the planning board's decision on. So the first was stamping of the plans. As I mentioned, we would certainly be amenable to stamping all the plans upon, confirmation that that both DGT and the planning board are satisfied with the design. The second item was comment number 17, and it pertains to cover over the proposed drainage pipes for the project. The local regulations require 2.5 feet of cover over the top of those drainage pipes to grade. And DGT, as a brief tangential side note, they recommended that we upgrade our proposed drainage pipes from a polyethylene plastic material to a reinforced concrete material to make those pipes more robust. We incorporated that into the design. So the pipes have been updated to concrete.
Are you putting in a waiver request for pipe cover? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so on the third bullet here, you can see the underlined phrase there. So that is one of our 2 waiver requests. We are requesting a waiver request from the local stormwater regulations requirement of 2.5 feet of pipe cover to provide a minimum of 1.75 feet of cover. Our drainage network does achieve the 2.5 feet of cover in some areas, but at the most restrictive point, there is a location where 1.75 feet of cover is provided. DGT did note in their response to this item that they find it, quote, to be generally satisfactory, end quote. I would like to note the minimum industry standard is as little as 1 foot of cover over even plastic pipes. On this site, we're proposing reinforced concrete pipes.
Did DGT ask you why it was in the best interest of the town to grant that waiver?
We didn't discuss that in depth, but the brief answer to that.
The planning board is here for you to tell us why it's in the best interest of the town to waive this. It's not, we don't waive it because it's good for you. We waive it because it's in the best interest of the town. Are you prepared to tell us why it's in our best interest to do this?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a great point, and that was my intention. So simply put, we think it's the best interest of the town to do this because lowering the whole drainage system to accommodate that 2.5 feet of cover would lower our kind of terminal infiltration basin to a level that is essentially within the groundwater, which would prevent our ability to infiltrate and recharge stormwater in a way that's compliant with the state standards and would cause a substantial kind of ripple effect of causing redesign throughout the system. And our goal is always to try to infiltrate stormwater to replenish and recharge the groundwater table to the extent we can.
Would you change our town requirements I mean, if we waive it for you, we should be waiving it for everybody, right? It's either, if it's a good law, you should do it. If it's a bad law, nobody should have to do it. So is that
And this is the
is that
second.
a regulation?
Second request for this that we've gotten in the last 3 months.
Is that something we should waive for everybody? Or just for you?
Yeah, if that's just a question for my general engineering opinion, I think it's a question worth exploring. It's not uncommon for us on these DPW sites, especially which have heavy loading, to install drainage pipes in areas that only have 1 foot of cover, sometimes 2 feet of cover. So to require 2.5 feet of cover, it might place a high bar for engineers in general, as a blanket statement in a regulation. But, I would defer ultimately to the board based on their experience of other projects in town and maybe what you've learned to ultimately decide whether or not to edit that requirement.
Actually, I have a more basic question. Do we have a waiver request for that?
That's what I asked earlier. He
Yeah.
said that is one of the waivers they're gonna request.
They're going to request, but they haven't requested it yet.
It's requested as part of our response letter. Yep.
But we'll need a separate list of waivers, even if there's only 2.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, the waiver in the response letter should be item number 17. The narrative as part of that response should be requesting a waiver from the planning board.
Trees.
We're fine with putting in a separate list of waivers. We'll discuss what's going on tonight with what waivers we need to acquire. There are a couple items that are, depending on how the board interprets the regulations, we might need a waiver request for that. And obviously, we're not talking about getting approval tonight anymore. So let's talk about, what we can get to you guys for next time. And if that's a separate list of waivers, outline, which local regulations and bylaws that we need to request a waiver from, we'll provide a separate list for those.
excellent.
Can you, on parking, well, we have no regulation on parking in that area municipal, correct?
Yes, we did discuss this during the prior hearing. We had a slide discussing the proposed parking, and we mentioned that we discussed this with the DPW director just to make sure that the amount of proposed parking spaces would serve the needs of the future growing facility. And the DPW director is comfortable with the amount of spaces that have been proposed.
There has to be some sort of formula. We have to come up with some number of employees. How we, should be some, make sure everybody does have a place to park.
Sure. Otherwise, it's
How are you gonna calculate the parking spaces? Required?
We do have this information somewhere. We've coordinated with the DPW director, just forecasting the amount of employees and the amount of customers. If the board would just like to see that correspondence or a summary of what that data is, we could certainly provide that.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So on the site distance, it looks like for the south entrance that you're gonna have a traffic control plan during construction. Is that your-
Yes. Yeah, that was a good comment that DGT brought up, not as a result of any local regulation or requirement, but just as an engineering best practice. And we spoke about this with DGT on the call that we had with them last week. And yeah, just to confirm that driveway could have site distance issues from an egress maneuver standpoint. It's that small southern driveway on the site, which is only used for emergency purposes. So we spoke with DGT and we added a note on our plans that requires the contractor, when constructing this project, to prepare and submit a traffic control plan to the planning board for that driveway, just to make sure the construction egress is handled in a way that's safe and appropriate. And I can advance to the final slide here to discuss the final 2 items requiring planning board determination as DGT identified them, if the board is ready to move on to the next items. They're both stormwater related.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So this one is the most comprehensive of the several items. So just I appreciate you bearing with me as I work through this. So this is stormwater comment number 2. It has to do with the 100-year stormwater discharge volume requirement locally. So DGT noted that the stormwater discharge volume that the project proposes to discharge to Pleasant Street, it increases from the pre-development conditions to the post-development conditions for that 100-year design storm event. The amount of volume we're sending to the Pleasant Street discharge location for the 2-year storm, the 10-year storm, the 25-year storm, all decreases from pre-conditions to post, but there is an increase in the 100-year. DGT identified that in our calculations and referred to a local regulation, which broadly says that the volume reduction must be achieved from pre-conditions to post-conditions. But that local regulation does not specifically identify which storm events it applies to. So ultimately, what we're getting at here is if the board determines that regulation does apply to the 100-year storm, we would ask for a waiver. If the planning board agrees it maybe only applies to smaller storms like the 2, 10, or 25-year, we wouldn't necessarily need a waiver. All of that said, I think what's important here, to the chair's point before, is just to inform the board as to what this hardship would be if we were to conform with the 100-year volume reduction requirement, and we've done an analysis to that end. So the main point in response to that is that the project increase in runoff to Pleasant Street during that 100-year storm event is estimated to result in a static rise in the wetland system across the street by 0.2 inches. In other words, there is an 18-acre wetland system across the street. It's a very large wetland system, and that's what the pipe network discharges to from the site. And if we were to increase the volume in the 100-year storm event per our calculations, it would result in a portion of an inch of static rise over that entire 18-acre wetland system. So it's a pretty negligible effect or impact. And then in addition to that, if we were to improve our stormwater or increase our stormwater infrastructure to meet that 100-year volume reduction requirement, it would be very prohibitive from both a spatial and financial context. Financially, it would probably take another new subsurface chamber system beneath the pavement that would be pretty large in size, would cost dozens of thousands of dollars, and we'd have to fit it into a part of the site where there might not be separation to groundwater, which would require a liner and a lot of other items to engineer. So when coupling that against the essentially a quarter of an inch rise in the wetland system, we thought it was the optimal decision to err on the side of asking for a waiver if the board assumes that the 100-year volume requirement is for that 100-year design storm.
Well,
So I'll
I
pause
would-
there if the
I
board
would
has any
definitely
questions.
assume the requirement is for the 100-year design storm. If there's not a caveat that says this applies only to 25 and 50-year storms, that means, and to 25 and 50, that means that it does include the 100. And I also, when asking for a waiver, I would also want to see the recognition that, we call it a 100-year storm, but we know that 100-year storms are going to be coming every few years in the not too distant future. We've had, how many 100-year storms have we had in the last 10 years?
4.
I mean, this is why, infrastructure has to be designed with climate change in mind. And so I understand what you're saying about the negligible rise on that wetland, but I think that's going to be an argument you really have to make in that request, because a 100-year storm is not a 100-year storm anymore, and we all know that, right? And so as part of climate change mitigation, we need to be thinking about a 100-year storm as if it's a 10-year storm, or what we've previously called a 100-year storm.
Missouri just had a 100,000.
Hmm?
Missouri just had a 100,000.
Yes.
Wow.
So.
I think that's very appropriate interpretation. We're happy to request a waiver from this item, and we're confident in the engineering behind it. So we can certainly formalize that waiver request with a narrative justifying it in a future submission to the planning board if that works for the board.
Again, if you could approach it through chair as why it's in the best interest of the planning board in the town to grant you the waiver.
Certainly, yeah, we'll organize it that way, so that it's easily digestible by the board, and that'll give you the chance to evaluate it. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item here, stormwater comment number 24. This has to do with untreated flow off the site driveways to Pleasant Street. DGT noted in this comment that there's a local stormwater regulation requiring an easement for any new surface runoff sent or directed over town ways. The runoff generated on the 2 existing DPW driveways currently in existing conditions flows onto Pleasant Street. There is no drainage easement in place, and the project simply just proposes to maintain this condition. So our request would be just to maintain that status as it currently stands, which is without an easement.
Jesse, if I might also add in for context, because the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook kind of elaborates a little bit more on what's new surface runoff versus, just new impervious area within an area that doesn't receive any treatment. And generally the handbook rules it as if you're sending new increased amounts of stormwater runoff from untreated area, that's generally not accepted. But we're not sending new surface runoff. We're repaving the driveway, we're expanding it a little bit, we're changing the drainage pattern, and at the top of the driveways, we're capturing more of the runoff. So we're actually having a net decrease of runoff coming off of those existing driveways in our proposed construction. So we're not sending new surface runoff over there. It's just changed because the driveway is getting repaved.
Yep, exactly right. And then the final item, which isn't on this slide, that DGT deferred to the planning board on is we requested a waiver, and we'll formally request this in a future correspondence with the board, from the tree survey requirement. There's a requirement in the planning board regs that require all trees greater than 6 inches, I believe, in diameter to be surveyed and shown on the plan. The way we handled this, and we spoke with the planner, with Mike, about this, is wherever our limit of work generally intersects trees that are greater than 6 inches and it may be removed, we wanted to identify those trees specifically on the plan. So we had our team go out and survey those trees. We placed them on the plan, and we're requesting a waiver from having to survey every single 6-inch tree on the property, which we think probably isn't necessary given the limit of work isn't really going into wooded areas, and there's plenty of trees on the property that would be greater than 6 inches in those areas outside of the limit of work. So again, we can formalize that as a waiver request in a future letter.
Right. Anything else from the board?
Yeah, I just have a question on the, and you may have answered this on the 100-year flood runoff volume. Currently, has there ever, with the existing facility, has there ever been any impact to Pleasant Street, like freezing because of runoff? And has there ever been any, flooding? I mean, how is the runoff, the current runoff, impacted, the pond across the street into which it flows?
Yeah, that's a great question. And usually when there are issues, we'll figure these out early on just from the DPW director, the end users, or the owners of the site identifying historical repeated issues. And the driveways that contribute runoff directly to the roadway to Pleasant Street, they're not too large in size, and they do convey runoff directly into the right-of-way to catch basin grates. So the runoff finds its way right into catch basins right along the roadway, goes through probably a couple hundred linear feet of piping, and then discharges into that 18-acre wetland system across the street. To our knowledge, there's no notable historic repeated flooding issues in the area. We haven't been notified of any significant ponding or puddling that might happen that would be dangerous from like a freezing concern in the winter. So it seems like a fairly standard condition, if that answers the question.
I can
So even
also
during
add,
the I'm still talking. So even during the recent 100-year storms, there's been no significant impact.
Yeah, not to our knowledge. And
Okay.
I know the storm intensities in recent years have been substantial. And as engineers, and we work adjacent to climate scientists, the 100-year storm is defined as the storm on average that occurs with an intensity that occurs on average every 100 years. So the rainfall data that we use in our models is being updated, routinely to adapt to the changing climate. So when we identify a 100-year storm in our design, it's based on rainfall data that's trying to be as modern as possible with respect to climate change. So I just
When
like
was the
to
last time the
mention that.
rainfall was updated, do you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's usually two accepted sources for rainfall data. That's the NOAA, which is a federal agency, and then the Cornell Regional Climate Center, which is part of the NRCS. And I'm aware that they have probably dozens of climate scientists, if not hundreds, on their staff working on these sorts of things. So I'd imagine, that these are the gold standard rainfall standards that engineers use. So I'm imagining it's well tended to, I would think.
Just one second, I got a question for the board, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Go
If
ahead.
there's a problem with drainage, let's say a pipe gets clogged or something, who do we have fix it?
Yeah.
DPW, right? That's all.
So one more question that I should know the answer to, but I'm lazy, so if you could help me out here. How much impervious surface is being added with this project to what already exists?
That's a good question. We may be able to fish that data up on the fly here. Russell,
It's
if you
about
wouldn't mind
5,000
trying.
square feet.
5,000. Thank you, Russ.
Yep.
So
I'm sorry, what was the answer?
approximately 5,000 square feet.
Of new impervious surface.
Correct. Which is about a 70 by 70 area in terms of feet, if you want to think about it as a square. So not too large of an increase overall.
And that includes roofs and
Yep.
runoff from
We
roofs.
can- Yeah, we consider impervious to be any roofs or pavement. Yeah.
And how much is there already?
The total impervious surface on the site, do you happen to have that available, Russ?
I can, it's on the zoning table that's provided on the site plan. So let me
might
just
have
pull
it.
up that up. Or if you have.
Here, let me just take a moment to load that plan up. Bear with me here. Okay. We have percent impervious area.
You're showing the presentation, not the plan, if you're intending to show the plan, Jesse.
Yeah, that's because I've got it up, Russell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
I can
We
open
have
up the plan.
percent impervious area defined on our site plan. The existing conditions, the site is 29.4% impervious, and in proposed, it's 31% impervious. So that might help to answer the question just from a relativity
So it's not a
standpoint.
huge increase of impervious surface.
Right, we were almost able to maintain the exact same or less impervious on the site, but the design ended up having just a bit more than the existing site has.
So it shouldn't substantially change, and this is speculative, but it shouldn't substantially change the amount of runoff.
Correct. And the existing drainage system or situation on the site was, is outdated and out of compliance with the most recent stormwater standards. So we are installing a substantial amount of drainage piping and detention and filtration infrastructure on the site to drastically improve the performance relative to existing conditions.
Okay. So the new drainage systems you're setting up are designed to accommodate the new flow coming off of the site. The new-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's very prescriptive requirements at the state
In
to
stormwater,
achieve those
state has
performance
very
standards.
specific.
And the town of Upton has some good intensified requirements in addition to the state requirements that applicants are required to meet as well. And the project meets those, again, with the caveat that that 100-year volume requirement, it would take a substantial increase in the amount of infrastructure on the site to meet that. And we find it more optimal to ask for a waiver request and to increase the static rise of that wetland system 0.2 inches across the street, rather than to burden the DPW with an additional expensive system. And we can certainly flesh that justification out in our official waiver request to the board.
And that'd be helpful if you could add into it, to follow up on what Margaret said earlier, is when was the, 100-year storm data?
Yeah, there's in the stormwater regs, they have to give you the year of the year of the data, so it's there somewhere.
So this is a running.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 100-year number has been.
Yeah, they update it every few years.
Okay, and it's been updated.
What is it, the N something? Pardon me?
NOAA.
Oh, we didn't know, no, but they've fired all their climate scientists. They're not gonna update it. I'm serious. There's no scientists left.
Margaret, there's no such thing as climate.
But there's the Cornell numbers, I think, are still being.
Yeah, I will say, of the two main rainfall data sources, the NOAA and then the Cornell sources, the Cornell 100-year storm tends to be more conservative and higher than NOAA's. So we use Cornell's for this project specifically with that in mind. And the peak flow is really the outcome that we're looking for from a stormwater design standpoint to minimize, because we want to make sure that all of the infrastructure can convey that peak flow rather than the overall volume. And so we are making sure that the peak flow for the 100-year storm is ameliorated or lessened from pre to post using that more intensive Cornell data. So I just wanted to make sure that was conveyed to the board tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we'll continue this till next month. You'll give us the waiver list, and what else are we looking for?
Well, we got the latest, from
DGT letter, so.
from Weston Sampson
Well, give us time to go over that.
and DGT. Yeah, it'll give us time to go over that.
And we'll be cool with that. Have something by then.
So we'll continue on August 11th at 7:30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
7:30.
Thanks to the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So that public hearing is continued. We'll reopen the public meeting, the regular meeting, I should say, and then close the regular meeting and open the public hearing for East Street Estates. And
They requested continuance. So.
continue to 7:10 on the 11th. Okay, we'll close that public hearing or continue that public hearing. And Centennial Court.
They also requested a continuance, so August 11th to 7:15.
All right,
Yay.
that moves us right along to 152 Milford Street site plan acceptance. But you've been sitting around there before?
See, we don't just do it to you. We submitted a site plan for 152 Milford Street. It's the New England Soundproofing Company. They are relocating their, they're in Easton at the moment. They're getting out of an eastern property that they've already bought the Colonial Chemtry next to Keller's Line. So they bought it, I'd say 3 months ago now, and they're doing some interior renovations. By now, they're kind of gutting the insides. But part of that overall game plan is to remove the back half of the Colonial Chemtry, which was an addition. And that's about 4,000 square feet. And they want to put up a 7,500 square feet steel building in its place. So the delta trips the site plan 3,000 square feet. 3,000 square feet, yeah. They only need 5 parking spaces for the industrial use, so they don't trip it for that. But nonetheless, it is stripped for the square footage of viable space. There's no wetlands around. it's a little bit unique where, it doesn't trip the land disturbance permit thresholds, doesn't trip any classification notice of intent applications. So it's just going to be demo the fact only, put it in the new buildings. We can come with us. Accent around. Got to go.
It's a non-conforming lot now, though, right? Correct. Why is it not as
The size of the lot is under the acre.
Well, isn't part of the 50 yard? I don't know if we have an acreage for. That commercial property, I don't know if it is that.
Yes, it is.
Is it only 50?
Commercial industrial minimum lot size required is 40,000 square feet. The current parcel is only 36,953, it's a little under. I'm gonna do a full presentation because it's not public hearing.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
Like the font.
We're hoping to set up.
40, it's existing is 36, required is 40.
So is that a waiver from the zoning board?
We went to the zoning board for a sales component process. I can check with the building inspector if he thinks that the size of the lot requires variance. Like, they meet all the setbacks. What we did for the zoning board.
Grandfather, is that not grandfather because it's our.
But if there's
It's grandfather.
until you change.
Yeah, you're good as long as you don't come in here.
Right.
That used to have a, up in front, that used to have a residence, so they get rid of the residence there?
Yeah, so the front half of the building was an old residence. When Colonial Chem-Dry came in, they converted it to office space. It is office space, but the soundproofing. But they
Oh,
just,
so
they
that
made
just used to be a house at some point.
way back when it was a house, yeah.
And where is 154? I want to go by there and I don't see where 152 is. I see the Chem thing has 154 on it.
This is Upton Street numbering. Why would you expect there to be?
Where is it? The people, it's on the,
Should be Colonial Chem-Dry.
if you look at like Google Maps or something, and it says, you look at, type in 152, up comes Chem Dry, and running the door says 154. I just asked. I'm just
We're number 48 and our next door neighbors are number 36, so. Literally, we have a border.
Apple Maps calls it 152.
But on the door, it says it.
It says it on the door.
On the building, it says 154.
That's weird.
See a 154 existing.
What is building behind it?
That's 156 is the one behind it.
Someone's just confused.
So,
Nonetheless, it's a state highway, just to give you a little bit more overview. It's a state highway. They don't plan on changing anything as far as curb cuts go. They don't want to deal with Mass DOT. They just want to put a newer facility in the back. They make soundproofing materials. They generally use wood products. And the reason they went to the zoning board was because they have a component where if one of their clients wants to pick up their material in the CI zone, it doesn't say you can have sales. So they just wanted to cross the identities and make sure that when they say your materials are ready to be picked up, that they can go drive in and pick up the materials.
And we allow it in general business, so there's no reason it shouldn't be allowed in commercial.
the question, if something is a pre-existing non-conforming use, but you're changing, if you need site plan approval because of a major change, does that nullify the,
That's the question.
yeah, okay.
It's not a pre-existing non-conforming use.
It's the size, it's the
The
lot.
lot doesn't conform to the size of the zone. The uses are allowed in the zone.
Yeah, because we couldn't waive that. That's a zoning issue. We can't waive zoning.
Yeah,
Can't make the lot any bigger.
Through the chair, there's a new zoning change that the state made. I believe went into effect 2 weeks ago, like they backdated. But I just heard about it and it has to do with the zoning board and pre-existing non-conforming structures or residential uses. And so it says,
But this isn't a residential use, this is an industrial use
It once was.
or a manufacturer, yeah.
Is it a pre-existing non-conforming structure? Cause then that. would-
It's a pre-existing non-conforming lot size is. the problem.
Yeah, the structure meets all the setbacks. I
So I think it does apply. Sorry, let me just read this. The budget bill amends section 6 of chapter 40A relative to extension or alteration of pre-existing non-conforming structures or residential uses that do not conform to zoning because of lot size or shape, frontage, lot coverage, floor area ratio requirements. And the amendment allows non-conforming structure or residential use to be extended or altered as of right without the need for finding a special permit granting authority, provided that the extension or alteration complies with current dimensional regulations regarding height, stories, and setback.
The only problem is the word residential
Yeah,
in there.
yeah,
Oh, non-residential.
yeah, that was part of their housing to encourage
Yeah,
these.
that's a housing thing.
So I guess my question is that, you know, in some cases, if you like, you know, if you tear down like a barn or something, but you keep the foundation and it would now not be conforming, you can rebuild it for a
Yeah.
period.
so it's
And
completely-
I didn't know if you're adding, you know, you're taking something down and you're adding a different structure that again requires site plan approval.
Right.
If that changes that, which, as Tommy said, would kick it back to zoning. Because,
That's a setback question. So the existing structure met all the zoning setbacks. And then when they demolish the back half of the building, and they put up a new building, it'll still meet the setback. So
It's
that
only,
question about keeping the old foundation is usually associated with, because they're only a foot off.
but it doesn't meet the
Well, it's-
site, it doesn't meet the 1 acre zoning. And that's my question. It's like right now,
It's frontage, it's square footage, it's setbacks, it's any zoning,
yeah,
component.
in this case, it's only
the size of the lot.
We're worried about.
I think that's waivable, but a varianceable.
Yeah.
Use can't be waived, but they could certainly do dimensions.
Yeah.
If it's necessary, if.
I mean, I don't like,
Hazardous waste, is there any hazardous waste when you rip down that
Oh,
building?
I believe they've taken, at least the initiative to file for demo permits. I don't know where they are with the demo permits.
Because hazardous waste, if there isn't any, it should be, just say there isn't any, and if there is, it goes to the Board of Health.
yeah, I take it they've done testing, correct? Like environmental testing?
Yeah, they did some 21 East study, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that the Ken Drive?
To the chem drive, yeah,
So who knows what's there?
yeah, again. I thought,
Maybe septic.
nothing with the septic was updated. We did the calculations in the same size septic, and it passed Title V, they did Title V, so.
Yeah.
They won't be increasing the flow.
But it should, you know, it should have a clean 21E.
Yeah, I believe they did, I don't want to say it for sure, but
Okay.
Steve and Joe have been on top of it.
But my big concern is it doesn't meet the zoning requirements and we're doing something that is a more, or significant change of use. I mean,
Right, so that's why he's,
Yeah.
that dude probably has to get a zoning waiver for the.
right, but
the
the
side.
zoning board said that he didn't have to. And he's coming here and we're ping ponging him back.
Yeah.
I think that it would be a good idea if the planner spoke to the zoning board to ask why they didn't see it necessary and, you know, get a clarification on that, because I would be, I mean, I think this is a great project. I think it's a great use. I have no problem with it. I think, you know, it fit for a long time. There's still a lot of space there, but you know, if the zoning is 1 acre and it's not an acre,
We don't have the right.
Yeah.
then we don't have the right to issue a site
Yeah.
plan approval.
Yeah, we can do it for subdivision control, but not through site plan or special
Yeah.
permit.
Yeah.
That's the zoning board.
But I think that we have to, or not we, but I think that the, you know, the planning, the Office of Land Use and Inspectional Services has to take the lead on that. Because, you know, otherwise he'll go to ZBA, he'll come back here, he'll go to ZBA, come back
Yeah, we
here.
already went to ZBA once.
Yeah.
Didn't get raised, but we can actually, we'll ask them.
And that's what drives people crazy is when
When you get.
they keep getting sent to, so,
Do we need to send this out for peer review? Because, I mean, this is our accept meeting. We're not, actually, it's not a public hearing, so,
We're at public hearing.
no. So do we need to send it out for peer review before?
What do you have for neighbor?
Really use.
What was the other one?
There's no change to drainage.
I'd rather, you know me, same thing, we send it up to review and then we're not,
Mhm.
on our ball.
And then we'll resolve the zoning to see if we have any
Yeah.
jurisdiction and.
Sounds good to me.
If I thought more of myself, I'd say no, I can do it. No, I can't.
Right?
Well, stuff that we want to see happen in town, so I hope it all works out.
Yes.
Now, what is the name to BGG, the other guy? The other one,
Yeah, who's trying to,
who you comfortable with?
Inside the project, that's any stand more in line.
To stand there and.
yeah, I think we've been using mostly DGT.
I don't want to,
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, how long would it, I mean,
shouldn't take
I
long.
think we're gonna need action from the zoning board first.
Can be part of our condition,
Okay.
order condition.
We can put it onto the August agenda if they haven't acted yet, then.
Okay, so you'll get in touch with them tomorrow and,
I'll shoot a letter to the building inspector, CC everybody.
And just so you know, he is leaving. And
Unless we wanna check with town council and see.
oh, who,
Yes, that was quick. How long has he been here?
almost 2 years.
Wow.
so Lauren, who's leaving?
The building inspector.
whole meeting or?
I just learned his name.
I know.
But yeah, so I can ask him tomorrow, just so you know it gets through.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that party earlier today was for him leaving. I had a party this morning for keeping Chris Karen.
All right, so
Ah,
talk to the building commissioner, I can ask him in person, see if he thinks.
Yeah.
If he needs more, if he's sure, that's a no. And then I'll. CBD does meet tomorrow, I'll let know if I wanna go to their meeting.
are they still talking about the 40B?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, based on what he says, then I'll reach out to the CBA.
Yeah, and you think that the 8/17 meeting is doable,
The 11th?
The 11th.
It's the 11th.
like, on the 11th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only meet once.
So, yeah, I think we had time with the public hearing, schedule along, so August 11th.
And do you send that out, or do I send that out?
I send it to the newspaper in budding towns and you'll send it to the neighbors. We want to set time for that.
All two of them.
25? Oh, no, we already have a 7:30.
That's, what's this, at 7:35, 7:40?
Yeah,
Do 7:35 in case someone's continuing.
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably be continuing.
East Street. This is, can I retire from the board before East Street gets moved?
So, when do they run out of time? When do you have to extend the shot clock?
I think we extended it through the end of August.
Yeah.
At the.
So next meeting, we'll have to,
It was cool when we came in.
Yeah.
Johnny AC up.
I think
Bill.
it's like a quick drinking.
Turns off the-
see, like the brewery actually had it easy, you know, compared to what somebody.
Room's still open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Well, we don't need to talk about the master plan tonight, right?
Nah.
I still have one question on it. Do we think that that should be posted on the town's website as a public review comment that will be incorporated in a master plan in the future and I'll put a date on it so that if we do get funding, those comments can just be sent to the consultants. We wanna.
What the,
What do you think we should do?
I think it's fine to be seen, but
Yeah.
we would also have to think about doing like some sort of outreach, putting in the newsletter or something, so it's not just sitting there for the people who only.
Oh, for the people who happen to look.
people have nothing else to do but peruse them.
I'll do that.
and actually, the newsletter is a good idea.
Yeah, just, let
Is-
people.
Kathleen is often looking for content.
Yeah, that's right. All right, any other topics? Can we adjourn?
Yes, please.
Second?
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Bye.